Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. There's another paid request, this time for Lucas. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting pretty much any type of videos, topics, reviews, reactions, commentaries, randomness, whatever it may be, a list, a reaction, a commentary, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. And Lucas wanted me to talk about the actor Fred Ward. Because sadly, very recently, we lost him. He passed away. They didn't really give into details as to what the cause was. Sure, the family wants to just, hey, we kind of want to deal with this on our own. And it's very sad because Fred Ward, this man here, always loved this guy. Of course, this is from the Arrow video release of Tremors, which is an all-time favorite of mine. And that actually gets into a second request that Lucas has, which would be the next video. But Fred Ward, anytime I saw him pop up in a movie, he had tenacity, he had believability, he had a presence. And he's an underrated actor that I don't think ever got his fair due, his fair shake. I really don't. I mean, I was looking through his filmography and wrote down stuff so that I wouldn't forget. But I'm looking at, even early in his career, doing films like Southern Comfort, where he plays Corporal Reese, playing a real son of a bitch. Southern Comfort, very underrated film, one of my favorite Walter Hill films. It's about a bunch of soldiers for the National Guard. They do a bit of a training mission to go into the Louisiana Bayou. Fred Ward, along with one or two others, are being a-holes, complete dicks. They steer with blanks these local Bayou Billies, and one of them don't take kindly to being steered, so one of their men gets shot in the head. And so now this group of National Guardsmen are trapped in the bayou with all of these psycho rednecks trying to kill them, and now they're in for a real war. Southern Comfort is a film I always thought was better than Deliverance. That's just my opinion. Deliverance I could never get into. I think Southern Comfort, I like the cast more. Keith Carradine, Powers Booth, T.K. Carter from John Carpenter's The Thing. And Fred Ward was one of them. And he's one of the assholes of the group, and he played the role fairly well. And on the flip side, in 1983, he's in a film that I consider one of the more underrated films of the 80s. To this day, I consider it one of the most underrated films. It's a film called Uncommon Valor. It's a film with Gene Hackman, Patrick Swayze, Reb Brown, Randall Tetzcobb, Tim Thomerson from Trancers and Dollman. Of course, Patrick Swayze was in Roadhouse and Point Break, among many other films. Gene Hackman, classic actor, The French Connection. And Fred Ward played a wonderful character named Wilkes, a guy who joins this group of people that Gene Hackman hires because this takes place at a time after the Vietnam War. Gene Hackman's son is missing in action. He's desperately wanting to see if he's alive, and if he is alive, to rescue him and others that may be there. And there's action, but there's also a wonderful drama. And I've shown it to quite a few people, and a lot of them have mentioned how they get to the ending and they tear up. It's a beautiful movie, criminally underrated. Finally got a Blu-ray not too long ago. Sadly, nothing on it. It's still a film that's slept on for no good reason. The director, actually the same guy who directed First Blood, Ted Kotcheff. He would actually go on to direct Weekend at Bernie's, the first one. But this is criminally underrated, and Fred Ward played a wonderful character where in Vietnam he was what they call a tunnel rat, going through the tunnels, and sadly at one point his character, you're in the dark, you don't know what's in there, everyone's trying to kill you, there's someone on him, stabs, when the light comes to fruition, it was an innocent person. And there's no way for him to know that. And that guilt and being stuck in there for so long. Now he's the type of character that hates the claustrophobia. He needs to sleep outside. And he has a great conversation with Gene Hackman. And Gene Hackman talks about how he was in, I believe it was the Korean War. And he would see these dead soldiers and he would have nightmares, dream about them. And Fred Ward would say, well, what did you do? And Gene Hackman says, I became friends with them. Meaning, met it head on in order to dissipate the nightmares and overcome and move on with your life. And Fred Ward did a wonderful job in that movie. Great ensemble cast. I recommend to anyone out there, whoever hears this, go watch Uncommon Valor. I'll say this, like it's criminally underrated. Now, that doesn't mean I liked every film that he was in. He did a film called Time Rider. One of those films he got to be the star of. But this is a film that I remember seeing later on, I would say around 2004, 2005, because Fred Ward is in this. And by this time I had seen Remo Williams, which I'll get to in a minute. I had seen Tremors. I like this actor. So I watched Time Rider, and it was just insanely boring. I think they wasted the premise. The premise of the film is a guy who's on a motorcycle during a race. There's this government experiment nearby, and he is thrust back through time. And so now he's dealing with time travail, so to speak. And there's really... it doesn't use its premise to its full potential. It makes it seem like it's going to be a sci-fi movie, but other than that one bit, it becomes kind of like a boring, western. The action scenes are nothing to run home about. The motorcycle gets taken away fairly quickly, and I liked Fred Ward, but the direction felt tepid and dull. If people like Time Rider, that's fine, but to me, it was just... either you did a much more energetic director, or you really play around with the sci-fi aspect. Even if you did a little bit of precursor to Army of Darkness, or something like that, where, yeah, it takes place in the past, but you shake it up a bit. But it's not the case here, sadly. One of his big roles was in The Right Stuff film that I haven't seen in a long time. I remember not minding, but I didn't rewatch that film a lot compared to Remo Williams or Tremors or stuff, but it's a film that got a lot of critical acclaim. I think that's definitely one of the films that helped his career. Sadly, the one that didn't help is the one I remember him the most from. Well, other than this. This would be number one for me. And Tremors 2, which I'll get to. But Remo Williams, The Adventure Begins. This is a movie that came out around 1985. It was based on books. And I think Orion Pictures and the director, who had worked on some James Bond films in the past, they thought this would be the new James Bond type of adventure series of movies. They based it on these books. Fred Ward's going to be this new star. This is going to be their franchise picture every year or every 2 years. Make a Remo Williams film. That's why it's called The Adventure Begins. Yeah, it began and it ended. And it's too bad because I think it's a very fun movie. It's got some really nice stunt work. Fred Ward is very entertaining, as well as his master, Chun. Yes, I know the master is played by a white guy. But I gotta be honest, when I was a kid, I didn't know. I didn't notice. And Joel Grey got an Oscar nomination. So I thought he did a rather good job. Yes, I know it's weird. That'd be like if someone did makeup on me and wanted me to play Martin Luther King. It'd be really weird, and I can understand people being upset, but at the same time, If you do a good job, you do a good job. Whether in a comedy like Robert Downey Jr. in Tropic Thunder or in this. And I thought Joel Grey did a really good job. As did the makeup, to a point I didn't even know until years later that was the case. And it's a film where you also have T. Mulgrew, who would be in Star Trek Voyager. Patrick Kilpatrick, he was the bad guy in the Jean-Claude Van Damme film Death Warrant. Fred Ward and Sean, their friendship, their rapport back and forth is one of the highlights of the movie. It's very funny. And the way he trains Remo into the mystics and martial arts, and to the point that he even dodges bullets before Neo did, before Blade even did in the first Blade, in that scene with him and Stephen Dorff in the park. Remo Williams was dodging bullets. I think the only issue with the film is the plot and the villains are pretty basic, forgettable. Like, you could ask someone what the plot is, and they'd be like, I don't know if it maybe need like a bigger villain, or like a recognizable name as a villain. Like, in even the later James Bond films, you had like Donald Pleasance, Yaphet Kotto, Christopher Lee, Christopher Walken, all sorts of stuff. But here, I can't tell you. I love the film, and I can't tell you who played the villain. And the story about this guy, the Star Wars program, and it's a fake, and they're stealing money, and I think the plot, they need a much more bigger or exciting or even crazier or more inventive plot. But what makes the film work is Fred Ward is very charismatic, he's very entertaining. Again, his relationship with his mentor, and there's some good stunt sequences, especially on the Statue of Liberty. That's definitely one of the standout scenes in terms of stunts. So I love Remo Williams, but when the film came out, it bombed big time, and no one cared. Thus, no franchise. I think that really hurt his career. Because he would do other stuff here and there, and then the 90s, you know, he was in Miami Blues, which I could never get into, with Alec Baldwin, and it's not because of the actors, it's just out of the story and the humor. It just wasn't for me, Miami Blues. The Player, he had a supporting role in that as a police officer, from what I remember, who lets into Tim Robbins' character. And sadly, other than these two I'm going to mention, he didn't get a lot of like big, massive parts. I mean, Thunderheart, it was a little supporting role. Good movie with Val Kilmer. Naked Gun 33 and the Third, he was the villain in that. But I mean, that's not like the best of the Naked Gun films. Chain Reaction, that was trying to be kind of a remake, like a rip-off of The Fugitive, with the same director, Andrew Davis. And it's kind of like they wanted Fred Ward to be the Tommy Lee Jones character, but he's really not given much to say or do. And what little he's given, he does fine. Later on, Joe Dirt, 30 Minutes or Less, Armored. He had these bit roles, and however you feel about the films, I think he had a good actor that was wasted in kind of nothing roles. It was a shame. It was very much of a shame. And of course, the films I remember him the most is Tremors and Tremors 2. Now, I had a review up of Tremors, but it had copyright, so it's gone. But Lucas, that'll be the next video. Part of the request is to do another review of Tremors. So I will talk about that next time. We'll save it for that video. But I'll just say this is one of my favorite films. Personal childhood favorite. Love Tremors to death. And this is the Arrow video release, which they did a wonderful job. Wonderful job. This is the Blu-ray. This is not the 4K. There's the bonus disc and the Blu-ray. A lot of good features on this. Again, very nice job done on this. And yes, you can even turn around for the old classic look. Ah, come on. If it lets me do it. But yeah, Tremors I saw quite a few times when I was a kid, being a fan of monster movies, and this is always a personal favorite of mine, but I'll talk about more of that next time. But Tremors 2, Aftershocks, which is the last one Fred Ward was in, sadly. And it sucks that he didn't really do a lot of interviews, which is a shame. And I guarantee you they asked. Like, there's a Tremors book, and he just didn't like doing interviews. It's a shame because I would love to have heard his thoughts on making Tremors and Tremors 2 and some of these other films, but, you know, what can you do? I don't understand that, because that will live on after you're gone, but maybe he just didn't care about that. But Tremors 2 Aftershocks, I remember when that came out, I saw a teaser for it. I don't remember what VHS it was in front of, but it was what movie it was, but coming soon, Tremors 2 Aftershocks. But oh wow, being a huge fan of this, oh shit, I can't wait to see it. And the kids at my school, because this was around 95, 96, when the teaser, because the film came out around 96, give or take. Because this was 1990. I can't remember when the second one came out. I'm bad with years. It was somewhere around that time, the mid-90s. I was in middle school, and the kids, again, they didn't really get into movies like I was. Unless it was a new Adam Sandler film. Or Jim Carrey film. Other than that, not so much. So I'm like, wow, this Tremors, and I was so excited to try to talk to someone, and they're like, sure, yeah. I just thought there'd be a Tremors 3, right? And then, hey, you know, Tremors 7. Lo and behold, they didn't know how right they were. Right, they're being assholes, or being douchebags about it, but it's like, actually, yeah, there is. There's about fucking seven of them. Because there's, let's see, 4, the prequel in the West, 5 is what, Africa or something. 6, that was in the cold. 7 was on the island, Caribbean or whatever the hell it was, Shrieker Island. So there is 7 of them. Again, it shows how little they knew. But Tremors 2 Aftershocks, yeah, Kevin Bacon didn't come back, but I thought to this day is still the best direct-to-video film out there. I really do believe that. And in case it doesn't don't fall, I'll just show it. There you go, Tremors 2. Actually, this should say, yeah, 96. This is something I bought not too long ago because they did it by itself. Because originally I had this, it was on a disc with Tremors 1. So if you want to have it by this is without a doubt one of my favorite sequels. Because I think it honors the original. For a film that went straight to video, it actually was very worthwhile as a continuation. Because the characters worked well, Michael Gross has a bit more to do as Burt Gummer, and it was great to see Fred Ward as the lead. I mean, yeah, Kevin Bacon would have been cool if he was in it, but it was great to let Fred Ward shine as the solo star, because he didn't get to do it that much, other than maybe Time Rider and Remo Williams, and he did a film called Cast a Deadly Spell. But other than that, sadly, not too much. I love the addition of the Shriekers. I thought that was a very cool idea. Yes, some of the CG doesn't work the best because it's lower budget, and the 90s were not really the best time for that. But there's a lot of good practical work. A lot of good stuff for a direct-to-video film. And you can tell there was a lot of care to it. There's some fun humor. There's likable characters. Movie goes at a quick pace. I would say if you like the first Tremors, this is easily the best sequel. And it's a good double feature. And Fred Ward, like I said, does a wonderful job working with not only this new guy who I didn't mind, Christopher Garton, but to see more of his interactions between him and Burt Gummer, because they didn't really get to talk one-to-one a lot in the first film, so you get to see more of these two guys talking to each other, which is cool. And it didn't feel like just a remake ripoff of the first film. It told its own story with different creatures, and I really love Helen Shaver. The effects were by Alec Gillis, Tom Woodruff Jr. You have the same writers, Brent Maddock and S.S. Wilson. And in fact, one of them, S.S. Wilson, directed the film. So this is in good hands, and it doesn't crap on the first film. It's acknowledgement and respect. Think of a sequel doing that today. Go figure. So I would say of the Fred Ward ones, this is one that is definitely worth a watch in his memory. I've done a commentary on that. Maybe one day me and Fabio could do like a commentary on it or something. That'd be pretty cool. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just very busy with requests and stuff, so we'll see. But yeah, Fred Ward, he's sadly going to be missed because this is like I said, it's an actor that deserved a lot more than he got. He deserved better roles. He deserved to get more of a when you look at his filmography, to repeat myself, when you go into the 90s, okay, he's the villain in the third Naked Gun film. A bit role in Chain Reaction, a bit role in Joe Dirt, a bit role in 30 Minutes or Less, a bit role in Two Guns, The Crow 3, Salvation. Almost forgot about that. And I don't even hate all these films, but they're not really films that really make you go, wow, Fred Ward was excellent, and that's a classic, It's one of those people like Brad Dourif or others that when they come in, they do their job, they do it well, and then they don't really get a chance to flex their acting muscles or get the lead role. Like, how cool would it have been if, hey, Fred Ward, you did the star of a film that's like a Taken type of film, or, all this other stuff. But, sadly that wasn't the case. And because then they tried it with Remo Williams, that bombed. They went, well, this guy can't open a movie. Oh, he was one of the leads in Tremors. Well, that flopped in theaters. It did well in direct-to-video. It did well in the video market, which is why this one came out. And then this came straight to video. And maybe Fred Ward is like, well, I like to be in films that are in theaters again. But then, again, you had bit roles in like Chain Reaction and stuff like that didn't really use. He wasn't used to his best potential. That's what I'm getting at in this long-winded way. A lot of potential that wasn't used as much as it could. And if you want to see that, the films to look at is Tremors 1 and 2, Remo Williams, and Uncommon Valor. So, rest in peace, Fred Ward. The Stampede Earl! Get out of the way! Get away! You dumb shit. Rest in peace, Mr. Earl Bassett. Thanks for the memories. Thanks for the movies. Adios, muchacho.